Some criminals believe that remaining silent is their ultimate defense. Even when investigators present overwhelming evidence, they simply refuse to admit their guilt. Is it pride, fear, or perhaps a desire to protect something we cannot even imagine? Today, we are exploring the stories of individuals who never confessed, even as evidence piled up against them. What drove their silence, and did it truly keep them safe from justice? Throughout these cases, you will discover the tireless work of detectives, the power of circumstantial proof, and years of speculation that pointed a finger squarely at one suspect. Yet these suspects never offered a confession, never acknowledged responsibility, and often took their secrets with them. Stay until the end, because one of these stories unfolded over decades, leaving both law enforcement and the public in a state of limbo, while the suspected criminal carried on without admitting a single thing. If you love diving deep into true crime and unraveling the psychological mysteries behind infamous cases, subscribe now and turn on notifications. We publish new investigations every Saturday, and you will not want to miss our next video on some of the biggest crime cover-ups in history. Now, let us uncover why certain suspects never utter a single word of confession, no matter how strong the evidence. Between the late 1960s and early 1970s, an unknown figure calling himself the Zodiac Killer frightened residents in Northern California. Through letters and coded messages sent to the media, the Zodiac boasted about his actions, even providing cryptic details that only law enforcement or the culprit would know. Despite an extensive investigation spanning decades, the Zodiac's true identity was never officially confirmed. However, many armchair detectives and some investigators became convinced that a man named Arthur Lee Allen was their prime candidate. Arthur Lee Allen was said to have shoes and items matching clues from crime scenes, and some of his acquaintances claimed he made disturbing remarks about being the Zodiac. When police searched his home, they allegedly found coded writings and various objects that appeared eerily similar to those described in the killer's letters. Yet none of this ever led to a definitive charge. Arthur Lee Allen never confessed. He maintained his innocence throughout repeated inquiries and scrutiny from the media. Some investigators felt they were just one slip-up away from a clear admission, but it never came. After Allen passed away in the early 1990s, any hope that he might finally break his silence vanished. To this day, the Zodiac case remains officially unsolved, and theories abound as to whether Allen was indeed the culprit. If he was guilty, perhaps his refusal to speak kept the mystery alive, fueling decades of speculation and endless theories about his identity. Edward Wayne Edwards was once seen as a so-called reformed ex-convict. He wrote motivational materials, gave interviews about bettering one's life, and seemed keen to share his journey of personal change. Beneath that facade, law enforcement discovered a more complicated and sinister side of Edwards' history. He was eventually tied by DNA to multiple murders, including some cold cases that were decades old. Although Edwards did admit to certain crimes, investigators grew convinced he had committed many more. There were suggestions he might have framed innocent individuals, allowing them to be wrongly convicted, while he continued to live freely. Yet he never fully acknowledged the full scope of his alleged actions. Edwards' partial confessions were enough to secure convictions, but he never granted investigators the detailed, all-encompassing admission they sought. Some theorized that Edwards gained satisfaction from orchestrating confusion, giving away just enough information to prove dangerous, but holding back crucial details that could solve additional unsolved crimes. This left some families without closure and law enforcement with lingering questions. By keeping parts of his story hidden, Edwards retained control over his narrative, ensuring that even after his death, people would be left debating how many crimes he truly committed. In 1993, 3 children were found under suspicious circumstances in West Memphis, Arkansas. The community was understandably alarmed, and local authorities soon arrested 3 teenagers. Damien Eccles, Jason Baldwin, and Jesse Miskelly Jr. The prosecution argued that these teenagers had been involved in some form of ritualistic wrongdoing, citing lifestyle indicators and questionable interviews as key elements of their case. From the outset, many observers felt the evidence was thin. A confession from one of the teenagers was later deemed questionable due to his limited understanding of what he was agreeing to. Despite the controversy, the three were convicted, and Damien Eccles received the harshest penalty of all. While they sat in prison, new forensic tests emerged, revealing that DNA recovered at the scene did not match any of them. If the real perpetrator was still out there, why had they not come forward or accidentally revealed themselves? Some suggest that person remained silent out of confidence that the justice system made a mistake and pinned the crime on someone else. Others suspect a more troubling possibility, a cover-up or external influences protecting the actual criminal, who could thus remain silent with little fear of exposure. Eventually, through an Alford plea, the West Memphis Three secured their release but continued to claim their innocence. Yet the central question remains: if they did not commit the crime, who did? And why has that individual never confessed? In 1947, the case of Elizabeth Short, often nicknamed the Black Dahlia, captured media headlines like few others. She was found deceased in a manner that instantly triggered sensational coverage, partly due to the stark nature of the crime, and partly due to the hunger of the press for a shocking story. An initial wave of suspects emerged, but none were definitively charged. Decades later, a retired homicide detective named Steve Hodel began investigating his own father, Dr. George Hodel. From recovered documents, suspicious photographs, and recorded statements, Steve Hodel built a case suggesting that his father had ties to influential circles and may have been protected by corrupt forces. Police wiretaps allegedly caught George Hodel uttering comments that hinted at wrongdoing, but he never directly admitted involvement in the Black Dahlia investigation. Dr. George Hodel chose never to confess to anything. He left the country for a time, returning later in life, but never publicly addressed or explained the rumors swirling around him. He passed away in 1999, leaving his son and much of the true crime community with more questions than answers. Were the rumors just that rumors, or did George Hodel prefer to keep the public guessing, knowing that silence can be a powerful shield? Why do some suspects choose perpetual denial or total silence when facing strong evidence against them? Is it a strategic attempt to maintain doubt and avoid conviction, or is it a reflection of a deeper psychological power play? Many criminologists suggest that refusing to confess can serve multiple purposes. It can keep law enforcement from definitively closing a case, preserve a criminal's sense of mystery or notoriety, and in some cases, allow them to retain control over their fate. Even partial confessions can be used as leverage, revealing only what the suspect deems useful while keeping other secrets locked away. For investigators, families of victims, and the public, such silence is both infuriating and tragic. Without a clear statement of guilt, many cases remain in limbo, families continue to search for answers, and theories run wild. Meanwhile, the individuals at the center of the storm either go on with life or pass away with their secrets intact. Ultimately, this strategy can work all too well, especially in situations where physical proof is not quite enough for a definitive legal resolution. Which of these silent suspects do you find most disturbing or perplexing? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Also, if you enjoyed this in-depth exploration, make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you will not miss our next video, where we delve into some of the most notorious cover-ups in criminal history. And always remember what Mats Fredriksson says: no matter how many secrets one holds, the truth eventually finds its way to light. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next investigation.